Hello everyone, this is Korosh Erfani and today is Sunday, March 29, 2026. We are reporting the first day of the second month of the war of Israel and the United States on Iran. There are many things that we have to discuss in this program, but I would like to start with a short introduction in the fact that there is nothing right now that could be considered as a stable element for the current situation. Everything is evolving, modifying, changing at full speed, and we don't have any idea about the outcome of that, right? So this uncertainty brings about a kind of precaution with regard to what we can advance as analysis, right? So that's why I would like to combine some theoretical aspect, some conceptual dimensions with the facts, because only going through the facts and news or reports could not really help us to know what is going on. In order to better understand the meaning and the significance of this news, we need really some theoretical framework, analytical tools that can help us to do what is necessary for comprehending and apprehending the extension of what is going on. So in order to do so, I would like to present today first theoretical elaboration of let's say a framework, and then see where we can put the different facts that we have had either in the past 24 hours or earlier. As you know, when we start something as a project, for example, endeavor, undertaking, whatever is called, let's call it an action. For any action, we are waiting for, let's say, expected result, right? Expected outcome. This is what we want to get. This is sometimes said objectives, goals, right? That's the first thing in any action we are looking for, right? Expected outcome. This is what we want really to obtain thanks to what we are doing and on which we are putting time, energy, resources, and so on, right? But we know that it's never 100% the case. Besides, and in parallel to expected outcome, we have also many other elements that are not really wanted, right? We run into the results or the phenomena that we didn't want for what we are doing, but they are there. Let's call them unexpected outcome. Very basic and logically as opposed to expected outcome, right? Now, everything that we are doing has these two dimensions, and of course, because we are talking about the war of Israel and the United States against Iran, we must be aware that same thing, that's an action. The war is an action, and as any other action, we must be waiting for expected outcome and an unexpected outcome for those who are carrying this action out, right? United States and Israel, of course. Now, this is the case for almost any project, any other endeavor that we can organize and plan to do, but there is the question of proportion, right? Everything is about the proportionality of these two, and that's why we need a kind of diagram where we can see the interrelations between them, right? How much expected outcome and how much unexpected outcome we have once we set about, our action. All right, in order to see that, we need a diagram. Here is a diagram with three different situations. This is what we can call a winning game. In a winning game, as you can see, the expected outcome is very high, is very close to the 100% of our objectives, for example, right? And on the other hand, the unexpected outcome is something, very weak, very low. Let's say acceptable, at an acceptable level of unexpected outcome, and of course a very satisfying expected outcome. That's why we can consider this as a winning game. If we can get to this situation, we can consider ourselves as a winner, as victorious, right? So this is theoretical. We can get there in reality or not. But there is another status of the things that we can call zero-sum game. This is where everything that you are getting as expected outcome is also in a level. Sorry, I have to displace these two here. Anything that you have as expected outcome is also on the other hand, you are losing it, and it can be considered as unexpected outcome, right? Expected and unexpected outcome equate, right? They are equal. So we don't get anything. Everything that you are winning on the one hand, you are losing on the other side. So it's not really anything extraordinary, and it's like as the name indicates it, zero-sum game, right? So the third situation, of course, is when your unexpected outcome is very low and unexpected outcome is very high, which means that the positive results that you have been waiting for your action is really low, is not that important, and on the other side you are losing a lot. You are losing many things as the result or as the outcome of your action. All right, three situation: winning one, zero sum, and of course losing game. So thanks to this let's say theoretical apparatus, we can start to think about this war whose timing is now let's say just the beginning of the second month, and we can ask in which of these three situations we are right now, and we have to see that from the point of view of those who have initiated this action, right? I am talking about the Zionist entity, and of course it's a slave United States, right? So these two countries, where they are right now, are they based on your judgment, they are in the winning situation, or zero sum, or losing one? So that's the first question we must be looking for an answer for. But let's first complete this theoretical framework before attempting to produce any answer. So we can imagine that with time, of course, we can have the different status, right? Which means that the situation can change, can be modified with time, right? Imagine that now we are talking about 4 weeks, right, of war, and we are at the beginning of the week 5. And of course, during these 4 weeks, we can imagine that at the beginning it was this and then that. And so that's why we have to create another graph in which, as you can see, we put in relations the game, the type of game, and time, of course, right? So this is an example. Just for the sake of explanation, as you can see here, for example, for one case, we can have first a zero-sum game, and then we can go and reach a winning game status, and because of time and everything that's happening, we get or we go down to losing game, right? That's just a hypothetical imaginary case, and we will see which one would be the case of the war of Israel and the United States against Iran. Sometimes we could have this one, for example, losing game with efforts in the time we get to zero-sum game, and again by using intelligently and resiliently time, we reach even winning game status. This is also a hypothetical situation that is possible. Now, let's say, can we elaborate a hypothesis, a hypothetical situation for the case of this war or not? The current war, the war we are in just the beginning of the second month. So, for example, this is just an example. We can imagine that at the beginning, most probably Israel and the United States were looking for something very short term, very powerful, as they told it. They wanted to have something quick, right, and winning. So, as its name, indicates. So this is it. They wanted this. They wanted to have immediately and in short term a winning situation, right? So which means we go to war with Iran. We try to decapitate the system. The leadership is removed. The system starts to collapse. The people uprise. The people overthrew the regime. We have the regime change, and of course, this was the imagination of Israel for the goal, but the United States. But for Israel, it was okay. There is a regime change. We don't let any stability in the country. We try to create a kind of civil war. And thanks to civil war, we disintegrate the country, and so on and so on. But I am talking about just for the, let's say, first 2 or 3 days of this war. Both of them were waiting for something as a quick victory, right? Some short incursion, with huge outcome, huge result, excellent result. This is what they wanted to do. That's my hypothesis. Okay? But with time, we saw that there is a change in the situation, which means that the leadership was eliminated, but almost immediately replaced, and that's why we didn't really get to the collapse of the Iranian regime. There was not uprising. The people didn't try to overthrow the regime. There was not civil war, and so on and so on. So the thing started really to go, the other way. All right, that gave rise to a new status. We can call that zero-sum game. If winning game could be considered like the day 1, 2, 3, 4, the zero-sum is almost in the second week of the war, when Iran started really to retaliate, right? They fought back, they struck back, and they started to hit the American bases in the region. The Arab countries of the Persian Gulf had been hit seriously, and Israel also was heavily struck. So we can say that from a winning game in the first day, or at most the first week, from the week 2 and and afterward almost, we are in the zero-sum game. And in my hypothesis, I am supposing that even after week 2, with everything getting out of control of the United States first, and then the real boss, the real chief of this war, Israel, we started to experience the third situation, which means from the week 3 and after war, week 3, week 4, we are again from the point of view of those who started, right? We are talking about them, Israel and the United States, Tel Aviv and Washington. We got to a new status that we can call losing game. Here the situation is completely different, right? From what? From the zero-sum game, of course, but considerably, evidently, obviously from winning game. So almost nothing comparable for those who initiated this action in winning game and losing game situations. These two were completely different, which means that in the losing game something came to light, which was that now the United States doesn't have any exit point. Now Israel cannot really get out of this war, for example, right? Because they started to use anything that they had at their disposal, but we saw that they didn't work. In accordance with the analysts, the observers, those who were looking, in an unbiased way, neutral manner, the things, they are telling us that no, nothing is going really in the good direction, in the right direction for the United States and for Israel. And this is where the facts are there to help us for a lot of verification, for verification of this hypothesis based on the real data and based on the facts. Now we can see that this is a model that's not only for the Iranian war case, right? When we try to see if such a thing existed also for other subjects, other projects that the United States or Israel had launched before this war, we can see that it looks like that is repeating. It's an iterative model, right? It's a repetitive model in which they try to have, of course, a winning game at the beginning, but suddenly with time they got to a sort of zero sum, and at the end of the day they don't have anything but loss, right? In other words, they are very good starter to have a very heavy hand at the beginning, but when they go on with their projects, all the endeavors, all the resources, all the efforts lead to a kind of failure. Is it true? Before going to into details for this war, let's see if we can find any precedent for these two countries, United States and Israel, with regard to this case. For the United States first, I want to mention three examples that are including also the case of war, but also other things, in addition of war, and you will see that is not the exclusive case, and the war against Iran is not an exclusive case of failure. On the basis of what happened, we can find other examples. The first one, you remember, I want to talk about these three cases. The first was the tariff war. This is the first war President Trump started in 2025, just a few months after his victory in the election and starting the second term. He started the tariff war, right? So there is a very interesting article in Guardian talking about exactly this, talking about the very bad experience of President Trump with regard of the limitation of his power. The title is "Trump is being schooled on the limits of U.S. power." Okay, but unfortunately he's a very slow learner, right? This is a very interesting article from Rafael Behr, right? And the first case that he mentioned is exactly that, the case of tariff war. And he describes, of course, all the negative fallout of this decision, this war that President Trump waged against 200 countries, right? And they wanted to have a lot of success for this, including making. You remember he was talking about something like 17-18 trillion dollars as the income of this very genius initiative, which was the tariff war. So we know that nothing was done as such, In response to these tariffs, other countries started to, take some distances from the American economy, and at the end of the day, something like 800 billions have been in the hands of the Treasury, U.S. Treasuries, coming from who? Coming from the American consumer, Americans importer. We knew from the beginning that tariff is a tax for importers, and of course for those who want to receive these goods from these importers, which means consumers, American consumers. So that's why the only real effect of this tariff war was more inflation for the American consumers, and that's all. And we saw the fiasco of the tariff war, and of course from the beginning we knew that for this superpower like China, it's very easy to bypass this tariff or to fight back, and we saw that it was the case. And at the end of the day, now with the Supreme Court judgment on the illegality, unconstitutionality of what Trump had done. Now the U.S. Treasury must be ready for paying back something like $400 billion to those who sued effectively the government for having went through this tariff. So we can see at the beginning, just with the propaganda and a little money, of course, a very quick winning. A little later, with the fight back of the other countries, a zero-sum game, and at the end, nothing but nothing, just loss and failure. So this scheme, as you can see, could be easily applied for the case of tariff war. The second case is when, at the beginning of this war, United States started to ask from other countries, including NATO, to come in order to open the Strait of Hormuz. Right? That's the second case, NATO for the Hormuz case. So what was the result? At the beginning, some countries said that, okay, we're going to see that, but later we saw that with the threatening language and the tune President Trump used, they started really to be repulsive and discussed somehow, and that's why they rejected completely these demands, and no country, not either one, was ready to bring any military or logistic help to the United States in order to reopen the closed Strait of Hormuz by Iran, right? So a total failure, an absolute defeat for President Trump. At the beginning, of course, it was a cordial demand, so we can see that it was a very good approach at the first step in order to bring them with itself, but later, with starting to warm up, his language for using the negative and then the threat and a lot of negative elements. At the end of the day, they rejected, all of them rejected completely, including even other countries, no NATO countries, any request of the United States for participating in any operation that can open the Strait of Hormuz. So again, it's possible to use effectively this model because we see that with time, very short, a few days, the United States, from having some support, then a neutral approach, and finally the reject, right? This is what happened, step by step. Now, with these cases, now we can come to the war itself, okay? War on Iran and its objective. So, as I told you, based on our hypothesis, at the beginning they wanted to get something extraordinarily good, excellent, with military upper hand, with logistic superiority, to get the result and to get out of this war immediately. At least this is what the United States wanted. And again, I repeat that there was not really any coordination between what Israeli wanted from this war and the United States, right? Of course, the United States has to follow and obey Israel because of Epstein file and a lot of other things, but theoretically, the United States wanted something short, a clean cut, 1 or 2 or at most 3 days. But Israel knew that such a thing is impossible, and it was not really in pursuit of something similar. What Israel wanted was a total destruction of Iran. This is what it is doing right now by bombing almost 100,000 points, including schools, universities, research centers, killing the scientists, killing the professor of universities, and so on and so on. Exactly the same pattern that in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Lebanon, in Iraq, total destruction of the infrastructure and so on. But for the United States, the naive actor of this game, it was this one. Let's get something just in 48 hours, 72 hours, by bombing, by killing the leaders of Iranian system, Iranian regime, and by bombing the nuclear facilities or the missiles launchers and storage, and then get rid of that, and then walk away. That's all. That's why President Trump, you remember, was announcing victory from the day 2 or at max 3. Total victory. We won, he said. We have accomplished our mission. The regime has been wiped out. And now the missiles are down for 90%, drones 85%. And this kind of completely nonsense at the beginning, just day 3. So later we saw that Iranians started to retaliate, right? They fight back, they responded heavily, and everything started to evolve rapidly. It changed really fundamentally. And then we got here to the zero sum, and as I told you, now, according to our hypothesis, we are in the losing game. Some people are talking about the possibility of changing that. Of course, you can change it, but when you think about everything that you have put to change this situation from the losing status to another one, for example, imagine the United States want to just reverse that, coming from losing game to a zero sum, and most probably at the end to the winning game. What's the solution? Solution right now, they don't have any other card to play but sending the troops on the ground. This is what they are trying to do, because there is no other card. They bombed everything. 100,000 locations had been destroyed. From now on, either they have to bomb infrastructure, and Iran has already warned about that, right? If you start bombing infrastructures, we will do the same thing with every Arab countries in the region. So you are going to have serious problem for almost 100 million people over there, and a huge international crisis immediately. Because this international crisis, this global crisis we are talking about, is anyway an avoidable effect that we are going to have very soon, in a few days or in a few weeks. But I mean, by bombing the Iranian infrastructure, Iran can retaliate heavily and rapidly over the Arab countries in the region and Israel, and we are going to have a catastrophe immediately. in 24 hours, let's say. Just that. So they cannot play this card, even though Israel is really pushing for that, because for Israel it doesn't matter that the Arab countries will be in a disastrous situation. For Israel, putting the whole world in affliction, in the misery, is no problem. They are there. Israel had been created to put the whole humanity in distress, right? We know that. So for them, or to them, there is no issue. But we are talking about the side effects of that, right? The side effects is a durable crisis in the Middle East, in the Persian Gulf, and from that we are going to have a really dire consequences for the whole world. Is it possible to have that? So the only thing now the United States can play as a card is sending thousands and thousands of Americans, because the life of the American soldiers is the equivalent of nothing for Trump and his Zionist circle, or for the Zionist entity. So the life of thousands of American soldiers, or let's say the life of millions of people, or why not billions of the global population, is equivalent of zero importance for Netanyahu, Trump, Stephen Miller, Pete Hegseth, and all these psychopath, pedophile killers and corrupt people. Human life. Already we are going to have the disappearance of human life on earth, thanks to what they have already done, the damage that they have already done caused to the planet. Look at this. Strongest El Nino ever is predicted to happen in 2026. If you read this article, I recommend you in the greenmatters.com, you will see that this El Nino could be considered as the beginning of the end. I don't want really to get into specifics of this article because it will take time, maybe in another video, but just to give you a hint, I have to tell you that if the prediction that we have here, it's called Super El Nino, right? We know that El Nino was devastating the planet from almost 2018-19 and afterward, and now in 2026 we are going to have what? A Super El Nino, which will increase so much to the global warming that in some cases we are going to have what is called extreme weather in some areas. And if these areas, if these countries are not really ready, if they cannot from now, before it arrives, brace for this increase and soaring temperature, there would be a huge number of casualties. You see what I am talking about? A huge number of casualties for the countries, like the poor countries. Wait for that in India, with 1.5 billion people over there, and you are going the number of casualties that would be records, believe me. This is what we are running up as the climate change effects. They have, Pete said, Trump and EPA in the United States On the other hand, Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir and Smotrich and Rothschild and all the Zionists at the head of the big companies, they had already killed humanity, but we didn't yet realize that. But let's for now suppose that we are still alive and continue our discussion regarding the war and this model. Here, let me give you a little number of facts that can help us to have an idea about what is waiting for us. Just to give you a hint about what's going on in other countries, so that you can conceive what kind of crisis we are talking about when we say that a global economic, social, political, and civilizational crisis is coming. Just to give you some hints. Heads up. Egypt shut down its shops at 9 p.m. So the Egyptian government mandated work from home Sundays, and the government internally called it war economy mode. This is what is happening. 4 days after IMF, International Monetary Fund, praised them and unlocked $2,300,000,000 to save the Egyptian government. Why? Because if the Egyptian government cannot provide the minimums necessary right now, it would be an uprising of more than 100 million poor Egyptians, and you can imagine what we are going to have at the borders of Egypt with Israel. In Turkey's central bank burned through 30 billion, attention, $30 billion, the central bank of Turkey poured into the market in order to defend the lira, right, the Turkish monetary unit. The finance minister, everyone called the genius, is now considering selling the national gold reserve. So look at how the countries are trying really to keep the minimum, but just try to see how fragile is situation, how fragile are these structures we are talking about. Egypt, Turkey, and Pakistan now. Pakistan Prime Minister went on national TV and announced government salary cuts and 50% fuel allocation reduction. And at the same time, they approved 358 million austerity fund. And nobody asked austerity from what? Austerity from what is coming, you know? And is it really wondering why right now these countries we have already named, Egypt, Pakistan, and Turkey, with Saudi Arabia, are trying to make a quarter in order to stop the war and open the Strait of Hormuz, because they know that if we are in an attrition war, they are done. All these countries are going to have serious troubles. Social disorder in all these countries, and all of them are the populated countries, right? Russia banned cash export above $100,000 and gold bars above 100 grams. Putin signed in March 26 something and called it fighting the shadow economy. Shadow economy, you know, the export of money, dollars and gold, from Russia toward maybe Israel. All right. So I have a list here. The other country is Iraq, then South Korea, then India, then Lebanon. All of them are in serious disorder economically and, of course, later socially after 2, 3, 4 weeks of this war. And can we imagine that if there is this decision of Trump under the order of Netanyahu to send the troops on the ground, everybody is talking about the operation that will take days, weeks, and why not months. Don't forget that the idea of saving the South Vietnam was an operation for a few days, then a few weeks, then a few months, and at the end of the day, 8 years of war over there, with just 3,000 soldiers that had been assigned for this mission, short incursion in southern Vietnam, to 8 years with more than 500,000 soldiers over there. Are we there? We can be. From the moment we have this decision of sending the troops over there, taken by Israel, executed by White House, we are going to have a real lasting crisis in the world. Why? Because war of attrition means that. Look at the psychopath. The psychopath is losing the war in Lebanon. Israel had lost already something like, let's say, 100 tanks with we don't know how many soldiers dead, wounded, with billions of course, damages, right? In such a way that yesterday something unbelievable happened, which was the incursion, the famous incursion. The incursion of Hezbollah into the Israeli territory and occupying a little village in the northern Israel for hours and hours. And you can imagine when they are talking about occupying the southern Lebanon to at least for 30 kilometer depth, what does it mean to have this? Hezbollah fighters raise flags in Israeli territory, Kiryat Shmona partially captured, right? IDF in retreat. Can you imagine that at a given moment, if Israel, as it's predicted by the chief of staff, the IDF starts really to collapse, Hezbollah will have the opportunity for a counterattack, being helped maybe by Palestinians in Gaza or somewhere, and occupying part of Israel, because we are talking about the structure of the Israeli army falling apart. This is one of the possibility, and many people are talking about this structure getting broken down, here and there already. This is not our claim. This is not my claim. This is something that we can see, coming from Israeli, who are telling us that if we go in this direction, we are going to have what? Let's see. Here, Avraham Berg, former president of the Knesset, quote, "The countdown to the end of Israeli society has begun." there is a real possibility that we may be the last Zionist generation. The end of the Zionist enterprise is already at our doorstep, unquote. Right? This is what they are saying. And according to the last estimation, the number of the people who are, fleeing the country, Israel, this is what we have here from George Galloway and other sources. They are talking about the astonishing number of 2 million. 2 million Israelis are getting to flee the country by any way possible, any way conceivable. From Jordan, from Egypt, Cyprus, anywhere, they are going back to their countries. From Greece, desperately trying to buy island in order to have something for themselves. Thousands and thousands are going to Thailand, thousands to Ukraine. Israel is losing seriously its population. Why? Because the whole fake entity is collapsing somehow. Now you can see, back to our scheme, that they wanted something extraordinary. They wanted this, expected outcome, occupying every territory, Gaza, West Bank, Syria, Lebanon, making a greater Israel, and so on. And what they are getting is this one, unexpected outcome, fleeing the population from Israel, 2 million. And of course, if the whole configuration of the country continues worsening, I am pretty sure that there would be maybe double of this number ready to flee the country, get off Israel, in 1 month more. If the war goes for the end of, for example, April. This is it. If we come now to the United States, I am telling you that what is waiting for the United States as, I don't know what word we can use, falling, collapsing, tumbling, anything that you want, but now, just today, with the price, with the oil price, 115 to 116 dollars per barrel. Tomorrow we are going a very bad day in the United States, because already at the moment I am recording this video, as you can see, we have the Japan's stock market falling nearly minus 5%. 5% for Nikkei 225. Why? Because of the energy crisis. Because Japan is going to, fall short of necessary energy in order to have all the industrial activity, production, and so on and so on. Of course, 5% in Nikkei will be translated very soon in the stock market of Seoul, in South Korea, in Hong Kong, and then in a few hours in Europe, London, Paris, and coming tomorrow morning, East time here at 6:30, just in, let's say, less than 12 hours, we are going to have a very bloody stock market here in the United States. And of course, President Trump, in order to manage all of this, here today he was talking about, the West Wing of the it's getting prepared in the White House, very interesting ballroom and beautiful architecture and so on and so on. So it's crazy, of course. It doesn't have any solution for whatsoever. Look at this. The world uncertainty index just reached a new all-time high. You know how much high? Higher than COVID, higher than the COVID-19 pandemic, higher than 9/11, higher than 2008 financial crisis. So we must be ready for something much heavier. In other words, let's say a worsening situation for the markets, for the American economy, for the global economy in the coming days. Because JP Morgan is telling us that in at most April 15 here in the United States we are going to have something extremely problematic. So the long term, if you want, the long-term damages will be translated first in terms of dollars, in trillions of dollars for the coming days, weeks, and months, beyond question. And through that, we are going to have different kind of crisis, including energy crisis, food crisis, production one, unemployment one. The supply chain will be in grave troubles. So now we have an idea about what is going on, and we can come back to our model in order to conclude the discussion. Here you can see that, yes, we are really in this case. The war that had been almost in a winning situation for the United States and Israel in the first days could have remained that if they had stopped the war, after 48 or 72 hours. If they didn't continue, but because for the Israel, the objective was the endless war, of course, because if Israel cannot really wage an endless war, it means defeat, and the accumulation of defeats. If really Israel runs into several defeats, one after another, Gaza, West Bank, Lebanon, Iran, it will collapse, completely collapse. So that's why the only way that it can make believe, it can feign kind of victory is just a continuous war, endless war. Otherwise, it will fall short of any objective, any tangible outcome, and it will collapse. Right? This is how this scheme here you can see can make sense. Right? In order just to have the drift of what is happening, the essence of what's happening. Now we can see that for Israel and for the United States, this game is a losing game. How they are going to deal with this loss, we don't know. The solution is very simple: to accept that. But I told you, the acceptance of defeat means dying. Both of them, Netanyahu in Israel and Trump here, will disappear from the political scene of Israel and of America. That's for sure, right? So that's why, in order to avoid it, the only option that they have is just escalating, right? And if they escalate, they are going to have a worse situation. That's all they can have. A really downgraded status from what they have right now. Sending the boots on the ground is just a demonstration of this. So that's why I think right now both countries are somehow running up more and more defeats, more and more issues, and at a given moment it's impossible to hold it out, and they will start to fall down for sure. But don't forget that the whole world will pay a very high cost for the fall of Zionism in Israel, as the former chief of Knesset was telling us, or for the United States, the American empire. For the fall of these two, the whole world will pay a very costly price, very heavy price. But if this really nightmare doesn't bring about a nuclear world war, we can be sure that despite this heavy price to pay, the post-war world will be much better than what we have. Because, as I told you before, we cannot imagine a world in peace with something that is called, how is it called? Oh, Israel. With the Zionist entity, never world will experience peace. So it's either Israel or either world in peace. We have two options, and we will see which one will be the one that we will have in fact, the final outcome. Anyway, for the coming days, for the coming weeks, for the coming months, for the coming years, we are going, guys, in hot water. We can be sure we are going to have a lot of troubles. I can tell you, a lot of issues, a lot of war, a lot of casualties, a lot of catastrophe. But at the end of the day, if all of these can make for the disappearance of this cancer, which is the Zionist entity, I think that would be beneficial for the world. Everything that is to the detriment of the Zionist entity would be for the benefit of humanity. That's the conclusion for now. We are going to have more to talk about that in the coming videos. Thank you very much. See you in the next one.